Okay, my microphone seems to be working, which is good. I'll need it because I'm about to say things about an anime. Hello, let's watch another episode of Frieren, actually, because it's a good anime about an extremely autistic elf girl hanging out with her traumatized child and her himbo idiot other child, which I enjoy, so I'm going to watch more of it. Welcome to an anime watch-along sort of thing. Which, if you haven't belonged to one of these before, the way that they work is that it's weird that if you haven't belonged to one of these, why are you starting on episode 7? Start on episode 1. Go back. Like, listen, episode 1 is great. I go insane about the animation quality in that thing because I didn't realize it was a movie. Go watch that. But failing that, Frieren. Good anime, full of cool things, and I very much enjoy it. So, the way that this works is there's a timer in the top left corner of the screen, and also, you can see the little ghost image hanging out, like, up there, of showing, like, just a little bit of the bottom of the screen of the thing, which should show you the subtitles of whatever I'm looking at any one time without getting me, copyright fucked. So look at those, and you'll use those to stay in time with where I am and what I'm looking at, right? And I will set the timer of both of our episodes down to 0, and then I'll say 3, 2, 1, go, and we'll both go at the same time and watch the episode together, and I'll do my little commentary thing. And then every once in a while, I'll be like, oh my god, something cool just happened. I need to talk about this for a while, and I'll say 3, 2, 1, pause. And when I pause, you will get a screenshot like this, showing you exactly what I'm looking at any given time, so that you can know, like, what the hell I'm talking about. And I might scroll back and forth a little bit, like, just because I need to talk about a specific thing that just happened or whatever, but using the screenshot and the timer, you will keep yourself more or less in time with where I am, and when I'm done talking, I will say 3, 2, 1, go, and then we'll both go, and then I can post like a full-length reaction to the goddamn thing without having to do a bunch of complex editing, and without getting copyright fucked by, whoever holds the copyright to Frieren. That's the way this works. Hopefully it'll work for you. And with that out of the way, let's, some elf adventures. Let's just do some elf adventures, shall we? 3, 2, 1, go. Are we gonna get into Flamme then? It's German for flame, in case you couldn't tell. Or fire. It's also the Danish word for flame, by the way. Flamme. Ah, the backgrounds in this fucking show. That hand-painted quality. Ooh. Which, by the way, it's one of the things about Fern, right? Is that she instantly slots into the role of taking care of Frieren, just like she did for Haita. Right? She's replicating that pattern that she had with her mentor. In pretty much exactly the same way that it was. Again, that's an interesting thing of like that Fern is sort of bringing that pattern over, taking that responsibility on, even though she kind of doesn't need to, And Frieren herself slots into that quite easily, and I suspect that's because it mirrors the dynamic that she had with Haiter as well, and indeed with the party, that they kind of did take care of her a bunch. So it's another level of that reflection of the past, right? The lyrics of this song really are just like a very straight, here's the plot of the anime in the song. Like, it's very sort of for kids anime from like the 90s and 2000s, right? Like, where it's like, we're gonna sing the plot of the show as to act as an introduction to anyone who's like coming in through the middle of it. I do also like that a lot of... Oh my god, the fucking rocks. Okay, fuck. 3, 2, 1, pause. God damn it, the rocks. Okay. Fucking rock. God damn it. These fucking animators. Hateful bastards. Hate them. Need to take a closer look here. Those are surely 3D objects, right? Oh, no, they're not. Fuck me. Okay, a bit corruption there, but... The thing to look out for is line consistency and wobble from frame to frame. Because like a human animator rotating a 3D object like that, there are techniques, there are things you can do. Like there's this, depending on how much time you sink into it, you can perfectly hand animate something that rotates and looks like a 3D object, right? Like Richard Williams is famous for doing this. Like where it really just looks absolutely astonishingly perfect. Most of the time you don't, because you don't need to. Like, when you're hand animating an object rotating like that, you don't need every single pixel to be pitch perfect from frame to frame, necessarily. It's okay if they move a little bit. It's just like the eye compensates for it, and it's part of what gives animation its distinct feeling and its distinct quality. 3D models, on the other hand, are just inherently perfect, right? Like when you rotate a 3D model, it's going to look perfect from every angle, naturally, because it's a 3D model. Like, it is a perfect object that doesn't warp in that way. And that's usually the thing when I'm trying to look at, tell the difference between something that's like 2D hand animated and something that's 3D animated. That's like, those are the signs that you end up looking for, are the signs of, oh, okay, like that complete geometric perfection when an object is moving and rotating, that's a hallmark of 3D. And like, I have to assume that the animators were at least tracing over a 3D object to animate that fucking rock rotating in space, because it is nearly geometrically perfect. There's a few little line wobbles, there's a few little details that shift around on the rock that don't 100% replicate position in a way that I would identify with a 3D object. Now, that still could be a shader that's like applying the outlines of the edges of the 3D object in a way that mimics 2D, and that could be that shader is just kind of moving those things around because it has a thing about being defined in relation to the camera. I'm not really as much up on 3D animation as I am on 2D. This could be 2D. I have to assume it's at least a 3D object that was rotated and then the animators rotoscoped over it. I have to assume that, because this fucking rock, which is rotating on multiple axes in 3D space, which they animated for a throwaway shot for nothing, like, why would you do that? Why would fucking, it's one, they could literally just have had a flat image of a rock that just kind of wobbles a little bit, like, that would have been fine. It would have been fine. I wouldn't even have commented on it. I wouldn't even have seen it. I wouldn't have cared. But no, fucking animated, fucking hand animated, fucking 2D, fucking rock with complex geometrical structures rotating in 3D space almost as perfect as if it was a 3D object. Probably it's rotoscoped over, but why would you do that? That's extra work. Why? I love it though, but still. This fucking show, man. God damn it. Okay, 3 minutes and 24 seconds. I'm already ranting, and oh god. 3, 2, 1, go. She's teasing him. That's cute. The wagon has to be 3D. Fuck you. The wagon is 3D. The wagon and horse are 3D objects. They have to be. Come on. Summer. I haven't actually heard the English dub. Does it have one? I think it has one. I should try the English dub at some point if it has one. I love Fern. They clash so well with each other. Like, Stark is such a good addition because Fern and Frieren are both. Well, Frieren can be goofy, but they're both such like serious, like low stakes, like low energy characters. Arrow Ace Queen. Oh. What was that flashback, Frieren? Yeah, no. 3, 2, 1. Pause. Fuck you. God damn it, you bastards. Okay. See, because the sensible way to do a horse and cart, the sensible way to do it is to do it in 3D. Like a horse and cart, it's a real complicated object to try and hand animate. Like if it like when it's just like straight on from the front, it's just kind of wobbling up and down because it's moving forward. That's doable. But if it has to do any kind of rotation or any kind of like any kind of rotational movement at all, just make a 3D object. Like don't like hand animating it is an enormous task. But I can see the fucking look at the around the thing there. Do you see the line wobble? Do you see the line change and the line weight change from frame to frame as though it's been hand redrawn every fucking time? Again, this is something that probably can be achieved with 3D objects and shaders that are like, because they're getting really, really good at making shaders and like post-processing effects on 3D objects that make them look like flat 2D animation. But I don't think that's what they fucking did here. I think they fucking hand animated the muscle movement on that fucking horse from a straight-on perspective as it's walking into frame. Because that's the thing, is like, you have to communicate that the horse is moving, right? You have to communicate that the horse is walking. And that's a fairly complex physical action for a horse. It's got 4 fucking legs, right? So, because they're not showing the legs moving, they're not showing, like, any of the other body mechanics whatsoever, either you just make it bob up and down. That's kind of what they're doing with the human characters, right? Like, they're just sort of bobbing up and down, swinging their arms a little bit. A horse is a more complicated fucking beast because it doesn't move that way. It doesn't bob up and down the same way when it walks. So the animators are animating the musculature of the horse moving and shifting under the skin as the leg is going back and forth. like that pumping action of the muscle as like the leg comes down. Which also makes me think that this wouldn't, like, unless they've made a 3D model with like an actual modeling of the underlying musculature of the fucking horse to do that with, then that wouldn't be a 3D object that they've just traced over. That's just an animator who knows how the fuck a horse walks when it's seen directly from the front. I mean, presumably they work from reference, but fuck you. You bastard, fuck you. And also, just, and then the thing that set me off was also that, is that Frieren's home? What is that? That seems like that the swing is like, that's a childhood memory, right? That's what the swing is. This is a thing that used to make me happy when I was a child, being contrasted against a decidedly less happy scene. Did Frieren's home get burned down? What the fuck happened in the background there? Anyway, that's not the thing that set me off. The thing that set me off, the thing that made me go like, fuck you, the background. The little dudes just kind of hanging out down there. Again, complicated 3D objects like wagons and horses from so far away. So much easier, just fucking plop a 3D object down there, put some shaders on it, let it go. Like, it's fine. You don't need, like, there's no point. You don't need to be, you don't get that much out of hand animating the goddamn things. But as far as I can tell, I mean, as far as, the wobble on them seems like too much. As far as I can tell, I mean, that horse, I guess it could be a 3D model, just, or rotoscoped or something, but why would you go to the trouble of that? Just to make this one shot look better? Why would you do this to me? Frieren? You fucking anime? Little things like that is what's been driving me insane about Frieren, is because I know I'm putting on a sort of angry voice. I'm like, why would you do that? You like, fuck you. I know I'm putting that on, but it's because I'm like, I'm so charmed by it. It makes me happy. I really, because the challenge of rendering objects like these, like characters, horse and cart, like things like that, moving in the far distance is one of like managing level of detail and fidelity versus like the output you get back, which is like how much of the show do you get out of animating so little at high fidelity, right? Like, you don't get a lot of seconds of runtime out of doing this. And you can see that, like, the figures in the distance are definitely very highly simplified. The wagons are simplified. There's not nearly as much detail on them as you might think there would be. But there's still more than I would expect. Like, and this is a thing of, like, also, I have a weakness for isekai, right? Like, I have a weakness for the shitty fantasy isekai. Like, the fucking 12 of them come out every season, right? And there's always some dude ends up in an MMO and, well, generic fantasy world with no real world building. Kind of shit. But it's my shit, right? Like, it's the shit that I, like, I gobble that up like a hog. And shows like that do not do this. Like, shows like that is like, just put a 3D object there. Like, we do not have the budget. We do not have the time. We do not have the inclination. We don't have, like, necessarily even the technical skill among our animators to do something like this. Just put a 3D object there. Put some nice post-processing on it. It'll be fine. No one will care. It won't matter. But I care. Like, I am the one. I am the freak who cares, right? I am the weirdo who actually looks and goes, there's a 3D object. There. And I've been doing this with Frieren the whole fucking time. I've been looking for the places where the show cuts corners, because that's what I find interesting about animation, is the compromises that the animators always have to make in order to achieve, like, something that looks reasonably like their vision, like their creative desire, against the limitations of their budget and their time, their technical abilities and capabilities, and the resources that they have available. That's always the tension. In all animation you ever see, ever, that is the fundamental tension, is the tension between ambition and available resources, and how good is the crew at managing that. Like, really shitty anime, Right, and I say shitty like on a technical production scale, not necessarily like as not in the sense that it doesn't deserve to exist as art, but in the sense of like, oh yeah, no, that this did not go well. In that, you will see like the classic plague of, we have 2 episodes where we poured all of the animation budget into like 1 or 2 big Sakuga sort of like moments, right? Like and like we poured it into like these few little things, and then you can see the rest of the show just looked like progressively more and more like absolute ass and talking heads and like panning happening over completely static images with sound effects going on and just like exposition. Like you can see when that balance gets fucked up, right? Where a production situation or a producer has made the decision, okay, like we don't have enough budget to make a whole season of good animation. Let's make a few episodes with the best shit we can possibly put together and hope that that's enough to drag an audience through the rest of it, hoping for another high moment like that. And that's when you get those anime that like open with 1 or 2 episodes of decent animation, then it just tanks directly the fuck to shit, and then maybe in the finale they've reserved a little bit of budget to sort of try and like pay off people who actually stick through it. My point being, Frieren doesn't seem to do any of that. Frieren seems to have been paced out on a production level with absolutely astonishing good craft and skill, just to make sure that like there's definitely animation quality differences between the episodes, where some of them definitely go a lot harder than others. Some of them dip down into like regular TV anime territory, and then some of them have these like fucking mind-blowing moments of craft that I've gushed on enough about. But Frieren manages the balance so fucking well so far. Like really, genuinely nailing the balance of keeping the feel of the anime consistent. Even when certain episodes clearly have more budget than others, they don't feel completely out of step. They don't feel like you're watching something created by a completely different production team, right? And I'm just impressed by it. I'm just happy. And you have to listen to it, because that's the kind of freak that I am. We're 6 minutes into the episode. This video is 22 minutes long. Okay, I'll try and keep it moving. 3, 2, 1, go. Ooh, Snake Demon. Ooh, that watercolor, though. I love those watercolors. I love the softness. That statue doesn't look great. Himmel, he has such a delta of Riz. He has such a delta of Riz, like where most of the time he is negative, and then sometimes. Oh, people love festivals. They do. Hang on. Wait. No. Fuck. God damn it. Sorry. 3, 2, 1. Pause. God damn it. Okay, no. That guy moved too smoothly. I need to see. I need to look at more detail. Okay, that guy. That motherfucker right there. Him in the background. Why is he animated on 2s and 3s? And why is the other guy animated on 2s and 3s? Because they have a Gaussian blur on them, right? Like they're not in focus in like the fictional camera of the thing right now. So they're in the background, so they're blurred. So you can get away with putting a 3D model there. So bait, did you put a fucking 3D model there? I need to. Maybe those guys. Maybe but I can't tell. Which is, again, the thing of, like, in a scene like this, in most anime, traditionally, the NPCs, like the extras, the whatever, like the random human beings who are just, like, around, you don't animate them. You just put them standing, like, maybe they do, like, one movement, like, just raise a hand, like, very barely any motion movement at all. Just barely enough to make the crowd seem like it's alive. And again, fucking Frieren! This fucking show. Right, you can see that they're doing that in this shot, right? Like most of the characters are static. The lady at the front does one motion, right? And that's like, and this guy's lips flap, and like this, they do the bare minimum to make the crowd seem alive. Right, same thing in this shot. They're sort of they're keeping it very low. In the most that's not just like a thing about saving budget, that's also about not distracting from the main action, which is these four characters right here, where we want to see the little tiny bit of acting that the old man is doing, right? But then that fucking guy, like, why the fuck is he animated so fucking smoothly? Why did you do that? Look at him. Look how and that's not 3D action. I swear to God, that's not a 3D model. No, it's not. I can see the line wobble. Wait, no, maybe it is. Is it just a 3D model with really good shaders on? Is that what this is? Is that why I'm going insane about it? Because it's also about, like, again, that geometric perfection. As the guy is, like, he's, like, craning his neck, he's rotating his head around. And he's moving with the foreshortening on the arm there, that, like, the way that those lines on his arm shifted, that cannot be fucking 3D, right? Shaders don't do that, do they? I'm going insane here, I can't tell! Fuck you! This fucking show! I swear to God, oh my God. Okay, no, I'm gonna ignore it. I'm gonna ignore it now. I'm going to ignore it now. This, like, enough. Background details are, whoa, cool, fine. I've done the rant already. I'm leaving it alone. We're watching the episode. God damn it. 3, 2, 1, go. No! They move so smoothly. Why do they move so smoothly? I want to catch this show out at least once. With a positive ID on a 3D effect. Oh yeah, you're going to heaven. Are you not gonna react to that? No, I'm not gonna do it. That armor guy, I'm not gonna do it. Okay, so that, okay, right. Okay, 3, 2, 1, pause. Here we do have a 3D effect. I don't know for sure that fucking guard, that this guy, I don't know for sure that he is a 3D model, but this camera movement, I don't think he is, but this camera movement pushing into a two-dimensional scene like that, that is a 3D effect, and so is this. as the characters. Like, this would be, oh, god damn it. Okay. It's a short shot, but this would be, they have like, the way that I would imagine that they have constructed it, at least. Because, like, I'm not 100% familiar with all the production techniques that these anime use. I don't want to sound too much like an authority, but this is a 3D effect. They will have constructed, like, a 3D scene. They project and texture a bunch of the background details, the foreground details, and especially the ground into a 3D camera. They move the 3D camera, and then they composite the actual 2D animated characters into that. And that's why the perspective on the ground, on the lines on the ground, wait, don't they shift? They do shift, right? Hang on, am I wrong? I could be wrong. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Fuck you. I'm not wrong. Right? They're not masking it with the fucking pillars? No. Oh, I'm pretty sure I'm right. They could be masking it with the pillars. That would annoy the hell out of me. But I think that was an effect that was achieved with, like, a mixture of 2D and 3D. I think. There probably are ways you could do that with just pure 2D, but why would you? Like, why would you try to do an effect like that with pure 2D anime? No way. No way in hell. That has to be achieved with a 3D camera. Surely. Anyway, I'm such an easy mark for this fucking show. 3, 2, 1, on pause. Oh, hey, demons. Antagonists. Frieren just, like, hanging there like a cat. Okay. Demons, huh? Frieren is the one who knows about them, you know? So, huh. Aura the guillotine? Okay, well, guillotine, rather. Just as Himmel died? That does not seem coincidental. Bet your ass they're lying. So that's a thorny question with the demons. Mm-hmm. I think I can see how this is gonna go. Yeah, no, because I think what the show. Okay, 3, 2, 1, pause. Oh boy. So I think what the show is setting up to teach us is that like demons are not like animals, right? Like they're not like humans, they're not like elves, they're not like living creatures. These are specifically monsters, right? Monsters in the sense of the fucking boogeyman, right? And that's the thing of like in modern monster literature, we tend to humanize the monsters. Like we tend to like receive the monsters as metaphors for various states of humanity, like werewolves, for example. A very popular is a queerness metaphor, right? Like vampires are very popular as like metaphor for capitalism, or like a metaphor for addiction or some kind of wasting disease. Like that's how when we consider monsters in modern literature, it's like, no, these are just like different versions of people. These are versions of people that have some kind of difference that can be resolved, right? Like there's this dialogue that can be had, there's accommodations that can be made, and coexistence is possible. What it really feels like Frieren is gearing up for here is that demon girl is just gonna murder the shit out of those people. And it's a thing of like, no, demons, like they're not people, right? They are forces of malice that just like exist as things whose purpose it is to do evil, right? Which is the traditional, like the old school conception of monsters, is this thing. There are things in the world which are simply evil, not out of any like, not out of any moral failure to be better, not out of any like personal flaw that can be corrected or trauma, but that is just the nature of what they are. Like they are evil in the same way that gravity pulls you down to the ground, right? Like it's simply just a state of matter, right? It's a physical law of reality. That's so it is, and it's not anyone's fault. It's not a moral issue. It's just the way that things are, right? And that's a conception of monsterhood that has problems. Like there's a reason why we have transitioned into the more human view of monsterhood, is because the category of monster tends to be deployed from fiction into reality and applied to people who are otherwise like, who are too marginalized to be able to defend themselves from it, right? Queer people used to be like, that's part of why queer people are so attracted to monsters, is that being a fucking monster is like, that's a slur that's leveled at queer people a lot, right? Being a trans person once upon a time, and in many places still is considered monstrous. It is an abomination, right? It's a sin against the natural state of the world. So like there are good reasons why we don't operate with those concepts of monsterhood any longer. Because the way that they get deployed from fiction into reality, and the arguments that are made, right? Like the argument is like, well, these are monsters, we cannot coexist with them, we have to wipe them out because otherwise they will wipe us out. Those are just the intractable conditions of the way that the world is. And that's like, hey, they used to say that about the Jews a lot, right? Like that's an argument that was deployed against the Jews a bunch, and against like Romani people, and against like fucking Catholics in Protestant majority countries. Like that's an argument that gets deployed over and over and over again by state actors, especially, and by by like the repressive majority groups to justify the oppression and the destruction of minority groups and less powerful groups. That's the history of that kind of term as it's deployed in reality. So there's a good reason to not use it in fiction quite so freely. And if you use it in fiction, you need to at least you need to explore deeply why this is and draw some pretty strong distinctions, so that your rhetoric cannot be applied to people, so that at least so that the narrative makes clear that this rhetoric cannot and should not be applied to people, right? So I'm a little, not gonna lie, have a moment of tension here with, okay, are we gonna go full-throated into the demons are monsters along the lines of the laws of physics? That's just what they are, and never can they be corrected? Or are we going to problematize? Are we going to complicate it? Is it going to be a thing of that was the situation Frieren and her party were in then when they adventured? That was what it was back then. But the world has changed. Demons have changed. Better things are possible. Because it feels like it's about to go real wrong for this kindly village chief and his daughter. So, let's see what happens, I guess. 3, 2, 1, go. And it's an interesting place to go. It's an interesting thing to explore. It's an interesting concept to work with. And there we go. Yeah. So they're boogeymen, basically. Yeah. Okay. So 3, 2, 1, pause. So we are going into that territory, right? And that's the thing to remember, right? That's the critical understanding we must have when we engage with Frieren's depiction of demons, then, is that this can be true in fiction, but if you ever, 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 ever hear anyone deploy that kind of rhetoric against human beings, that, oh yeah, this is a sort of human being which is duplicitous, which only uses words in order to trick and deceive, which cannot be negotiated with, which cannot be coexisted with. If you ever, ever, ever hear anyone do that, that's a fucking fascist. right? Or at least that is a fascist rhetoric. That is an attempt to build a fascist world where people can be where human beings can simply be designated not people, right? Not a real person. And you see this happening in, I mean, I hate to fucking bring it up because I watch anime partly to escape this shit, but that's part of the rhetoric that the IDF is deploying against the Palestinian population of Gaza right now. That's the rhetoric that they deploy, like, against like, their imagined version of Hamas, right? Because, no doubt about it, that is a terrorist group that has committed crimes, horrendous crimes, but it is a terrorist group that's made up of human beings. Human beings that are every bit as human as any other human being on Earth. But the rhetoric that gets deployed, and this is not exclusive to Israel, but holy fuck, if you were old enough to remember the War on Terror, the way that Islamists were talked about, the way that terrorists were discussed as a class of person, like they're inhuman and they have no thoughts in their heads and they are only taught to kill, and their only objective and their only desire in the world is to kill Christians and destroy the Western world. Like, that rhetoric, like, it's right there. It's this thing of like, no, this is a class of person which is not a human, right? Which is not a real person, which cannot be negotiated with, does not respond to rhetoric, does not respond to persuasion, cannot be engaged with in any form of diplomacy. The only solution to dealing with these people is violence. That was a fairly normal way to talk about Muslims once upon a time, and in many places still fucking is. If you ever hear that rhetoric in real life, it's fine in fiction, right? Like, in a fiction like this, it's like, it doesn't hurt anyone, right? Like, it's not like Frieren is trying to build a fascist world with this fantasy concept, because, like, it's very explicitly saying these are boogeymen. These are, like, demons descend from monsters that just learned to cry help in order to lure prey to them, right? Like, it's like, its depiction is relatively neutral. But the moment it gets moved, the moment someone makes the jump, right, to apply that same rhetoric to people in real life, that, bad, real bad. Like, you can hear it in the way that, like, police will talk about, gangs, for example, will use this kind of language, right? Like, these people are bred for brutality, or that, like, the old language of the 90s, like super predators, right? Like, that some people are just super predators. And you can hear it, and this is something to be kept in mind, you can hear it in the way that people talk about sociopaths and psychopaths, right? That sociopaths and psychopaths are just, you cannot reason with them. They cannot be suffered to exist alongside normal people. They are dangerous simply by the virtue of their existence, and they must be dealt with in some kind of carceral way, right? When the fact of the matter is that, like, even so, like, if you have ever been to the hospital, probably a sociopath treated you at some point, because there's a lot of them in the doctor profession. Also a lot of them on Wall Street, and fuck those people. But a lot of pilots, like, a lot of doctors, a lot of scientists, have those diagnoses, and they are not inhuman killing machine serial killer monsters the way that fiction likes to depict them as. Simply being a sociopath or a psychopath doesn't inherently make you violent, doesn't inherently make you dangerous to other people. There are definitely comorbidities, there are definitely behavior patterns that are associated with those psychological conditions, with those mental health conditions, that can make you more of a danger to the people around you in certain circumstances. But, like, the vast majority of genocidal violence that has ever been done on planet Earth has been done by people who were completely fucking sane and were just given a lot of power to do the wrong thing, right? Like, that, you have to keep that distinction in mind, that some of the most brutal murderers that have ever walked this earth were, as far as anyone could fucking tell, of completely sane and sound mind and body. Eichmann comes to mind, right? There is no category of person. There simply isn't. That you cannot suffer the designation of any category of real human being in the real world as non-person, because dehumanization is where all evil starts. Like, all of it starts when you start treating people not like people but objects. So I just want to fucking nail that down right now. Is that this is fine in fiction? This is a fantasy story, and it's not like someone's gonna watch Frieren and then go immediately become a genocidal fascist out in the real world. Just that you have to be careful not to let fiction normalize this concept to you to the point where you accept its application to human beings, because that's the danger. Is that if you're so used to this being a if you're used to this being a normal thing in stories, that, oh yeah, no, like, obviously in all of the stories there's always a category of things that look like people but which aren't people and which just need to be exterminated. Yeah, sure, that's normal. Like, that's just a thing I'm used to. And that's the kind of weakness, or the chip in your armor that can be used to persuade you into bad things in real life. So I just want to hammer that one down, because that's important when engaging with a story like this. Anyway, 3, 2, 1, go. Ah, he's trying to appeal to emotion. Oh boy. Dead man dead. Dead man real dead. Remember, the thing we were told is, like, demons don't have parents. Like, they don't get to have parents. They're just born and then they go killing. Oh, is he for real gonna try Frieren? Okay. Guess he is. Oh, he has little string powers. Cool. I like it when Frieren gets cocky. I do like it. She's presumably gonna kick his ass pretty easily. Because that's one thing the show hasn't done yet, is really demonstrated the extent of Frieren's power. Like, just how strong she really is. Which I presume is why these antagonists are being introduced, is just to give us an opportunity to do some fucking Sakuga. Which I'm quite hype about. But still, like, I really can't emphasize enough that this rhetoric is fine for boogeymen and monsters in stories. Just, like, you cannot suffer it in real life. You cannot. You have to push back on it when you see it. Because horrible, horrible, horrible things lie down that way. 500,000 dead Iraqis, for one. So, yeah, no. And that's why I'm wondering whether Frieren is going to try and complicate it. I'm wondering if Frieren is, like, if it is the show going to present the possibility that even with something that seems so evil and demonic and incompatible as demons, that some kind of peace is possible, that, like, some kind of better world is possible, or is it going to, like, commit to the idea that, like, no, these are monsters, right? Like, these are, like, monsters in the same way that fucking goblins in a Dragon Quest game are monsters, right? Like the same way that slimes in a Dragon Quest game are just monsters that you have to kill, and it's not, but they are monsters with a very clever front, right? Like a front that preys on human sentimentality. Because, I'm sorry, it sets me off. It really does, because, like, I am old enough to remember that rhetoric being deployed and used to justify so many fucking deaths, like, so much killing. And I'm not just talking about, like present day, like, that rhetoric is used by the Russian army against the Ukrainians, like, that. It is right there in the way that, like that they teach their soldiers to behave. Like, that's why Bucha happened, right? And I don't like it. Like, it's a rhetoric that's always deployed by people who seek to justify the wholesale murder of an entire population group, right? Like, these are not human beings. When we kill them, we're not, like, the Crusades did this. In the Crusades, this was done. Like, there were religious exemptions granted for slaughtering Muslims and unbelievers on the grounds of, like, well, I mean, that's, if you kill those, that's not really like killing a person, so thou shalt not kill does not apply here, right? And I cannot stress enough how much how dangerous this trope can be when it is not critically examined. Because that's the thing, is, like, the cure to this, I believe, at least, like, the thing that robs this trope of its dangerous power, that robs this fictional rhetoric of its ability to do harm in the real world, is education. Like, it is critical examination. That's the point of criticism. That's why we are taught to, like, critically read stories and understand narratives, is the capacity to critically examine the media that you enjoy, to understand the tropes that are being employed, and the ways in which, like, the ability to clearly distinguish, not distinctify, what the hell, distinguish fiction from reality, which is a thing that's, like, is less common than you would like it to be, is the ability to distinguish fiction from reality. Not in the sense that people, like, watch the Marvel movies and think the Avengers are real, but in the sense that people will watch Captain Marvel movies, and they won't, like, come out of it thinking, like, that Captain Marvel is real, but they will go, oh, that's probably a reasonably accurate depiction of the U.S. Air Force, right? Because the Captain Marvel movie is very explicitly a piece of propaganda for the U.S. Air Force. That presents it as, like, this place that women can go to become empowered and to, like, claim their place in the world and to stand up against, like bullies, and, like, oh, join the Air Force, and you'll, like, that's the feminist woman empowering organization of, don't worry about who you're going to be flying over or who you're going to be dropping bombs on. It's feminism, yay! Go fly a plane in the Air Force, totally peaceful, just for peaceful purposes. Don't worry about it when you are tasked with, blowing up a wedding in Afghanistan. And the antidote to that is critical thinking skills, right? Like, so I don't want anyone to come away with this, like, for this with me saying, ban this trope, stories like this are not allowed to be told. No, absolutely not. Stories like that are fully allowed to be told. It's completely okay to tell a story that employs that trope. It's just, we all have to be on the same page about it. That image of monsterhood is employed in real political discourses, and it will be used against you to justify the wholesale killing of a certain population group. Don't let that happen to you. Don't let people do that to you, because you'll end up endorsing horrible things and becoming complicit in them, and that's bad. Anyway, that's enough lecturing from me. Let's watch another episode of Frieren, shall we? Whoa. Oh boy. Bye.